Overview. In August 1786, Revolution War veteran Daniel Shea said, led the Army Rebellion in Springfield, Massachusetts, to protest what was received as an unjust economic policy and political corruption of the Massachusetts state legislation. State Republic exposed the weakness of the government under the Articles of Confederation and led many, including George Washington, to strengthen the federal government in order to put down the future uprisings. Rebellion, which received economic booming with the American Revolution and the shape debate of the proper scene of authority of the U.S. government. The ultimate result was the creation of the U.S. Constitution. Daniel says the plot, and Daniel says the farmer veterans. In the 18th century, farmers in Massachusetts out-strangled taxes and legislation of unfermented governments. They rebelled the government in response by attempting to suppress the rebellion. In You Fought, the government description, it is Great Britain. Think again. The rebellion described not occur in 1776, nor involve with Great Britain. A farmer's question led to revolutionary and who had fought for such American wars for independence. Were the rebel as against tax imposed from the state government of Massachusetts. Daniel Shea, born in Massachusetts, 1747, to Irish immigrants, with the land of farmer and the Revolution War broke out. He joined the local militia and fought the Battle of Bunker Hill, Staver, and Lexington, rose to the rank of captain of the 5th Massachusetts Regiment. He was wounded in battle, never got paid for his military service, and in 1780 he returned back home to Brooklyn, and when Boston, he found that it was taking on court because of debt, unpaid of his fighting of war. He since then accomplished his service, and there's no way that he could pay out his debt. After serving some town meeting, Shea discovered another way veterans and farmers can get the same situation. They banded together for political and Massachusetts state legislation, religious debt, and the Legislation Council under the Political Rights and the Commune. All the principal and debt that were released and rejected. Massachusetts government John Hancock signed the Declaration of Independence that he has refused and to back taxes. But in early 1785, perhaps participating, trouble ahead and resigned to his post, claiming poor health and replaced by James Brown. He took much of the compromisal approach. While condemned as the civil rights and action to collect the depot taxes of the debt of the state, that would impose for more taxes on Shelley. Shelley's rebellions and its consequences. The protest movement, which in Shelley took part, eventually assumed as the leadership role received by the elegant American Revolution and the colonialist cost of the British rule and the wounded labor opposed to the economic sanctions of the British policies and the corruption of Massachusetts state policies. Having just fought a revolution, inspired part of the King George III, the British tax policies, they had the state of relentless and Buckingham Palace for taxing the octonal credit card imposed by the banks. Of Jake Stonewall, a farmer from Gorston, led a protest in 1782 during his followers physically prevented taxes from collectors. The collectors were rural workers, and for the following year, in town Cambridge, a mob contested property to return former owners. In August 1786, the Massachusetts legislation, added without addressing independent Koru commies, and on August 29, a group of protesters called themselves regulators, converting on them on the north and to stop the country from converting and diverting. In response, the government drew up legislation plans to blow up the militias, and in future, on September 5, protesters shut down and squashed any actions of the Delaware government and the militia to quiet the protests. And however, sympathy for the protesters have a way, and the government's order of leading a new recruit and new private militia has started. On January 25, 1787, Shelley led the group. Nearly 1,200 protesters marched on the Federation of Army Springs built, and several private militia waiting for them. On the result of skirmish for 4 hours, 20 were wounded, a lot were injured. In your opinion, was this a great success for George Washington? Who didn't pay taxes to the British during the Revolution? Why were the citizens so angry? Let me know. Comments below.